welcome back. Now, what did you do in the weeks after having a baby? The traditional custom of confinement in China sees women stay inside for a month. In its strictest form, they have to stay in bed, no showers, no cold food or drink, not even brushing your teeth. Now, in parts of India, a similar type of hunkering down with close family can last up to 60 days. In Africa, 40 days. We'll talk more about those traditions in a moment or two. But first, our reporter Amber Hack spoke to a new mother who was carrying out that practice.
Hi, Ching.
Hi there.
Did it ever cross your mind to not do the confinement period?
Not at all, actually. I come originally from Singapore, and it's part of our culture to definitely do confinement. So it was more about making sure I can import that over to the UK since I'm doing it here. Being confined in your flat actually is important because for us, if you don't practice it, then you're just disadvantaging yourself, kind of thing.
So Ching, your husband is English. What did he think when you told him you were gonna go a whole month without leaving the house or having any visitors?
I didn't think he realized that it came with a whole set of practice and rules, and it was a bit difficult for him because he wanted to show off his baby. And my husband, he doesn't really know what was going on when I said, I need to practice confinement, and his family as well. So it's quite obvious that there's a lack of understanding or even awareness that it even exists.
Well, a lack of awareness, so let's shine the light on this issue for the next few minutes. I'm joined by Joy Lawn, a Professor of Maternal and Child Health, Macy Ngu, a founder of Confinement Food Delivery Service, and the author and columnist Kelly Yang, who joins us live now from Hong Kong. Welcome all three of you to today's global programme. Kelly, to you first of all, because you've written exactly about this. Tell me a little more about the rules of confinement in its strictest form.
Right. Okay. So confinement is a Chinese custom that dates back, 2,000 years to the Han Dynasty, actually, in which women who've just given birth, who've just had a baby, aren't supposed to leave their houses. They're not supposed to leave their apartments for a month. And in that month, they're not allowed to shower. They can't wash their hair. They're not even supposed to brush their teeth. They definitely can't have visitors other than, family. They're not supposed to eat certain things. They can't eat cold things. They can't drink cold things. They can't even read. They're not allowed to have any digital devices, can't watch TV, no sex, no walking. So it's pretty strict in terms of traditional confinement. And a lot of this is coming from Chinese medicine, the idea that the body is sort of out of balance after birth and we need to restore the yang. And so we need to, isolate the woman and avoid cold things.
I know a lot of it is tradition, is weaved in with Eastern medicine, but how much superstition is there also weaved into all of this?
I think a lot. There are a lot of people who say, if you don't do this, you're going to get arthritis, you're going to have joint pain later on, back pain, or they'll say, because now you're suffering a little bit and you've got, you're older and you have some back pain, that's because you ate that ice cream when you were supposed to be on confinement. So there's quite a lot, I think, of superstition that's going on.
It was an extraordinary list you just read out. Let me bring in Joy, because Joy, in China, it is 30 days, as we were hearing there. In parts of India, as I said in the introduction, 60. You've done a lot of work in Africa. In parts of Africa that follow this, what do they do there?
Well, it varies, but I was born in East Africa and I've worked in West Africa. And for example, in Ghana, a baby is just given a name by the day of the week that they're born, and they don't get a proper name until they're 40 days old. So it applies not just to the woman, but also to the expectations for the baby. That's very interesting. So tell me a little more about the thinking behind that then. Well, what we know is of the 2.6 million babies who die around the world, 1 million die on their birthday. So part of these traditions for the baby, but also for the woman, reflect that birth is the time of greatest risk of death, of disability, but also of some of these other problems that you're referring to, so mental health conditions, so acute psychosis after giving birth. And so I think traditional societies either protect themselves. For example, in Ghana, the belief was that if you gave a name to this baby and then the baby died and went back to the ancestors, you would anger the ancestors because you've wasted a family name on a baby who then goes back to them. So all this kind of tradition, a lot of it is driven by the reality that a lot of these babies used to die.
Maisie, I'll come to you in just one second. Just intrigued by one question, though, because, I mean, it makes a lot of obvious sense to have family all around in those immediate weeks, wherever you are in the world. But you've also touched on a certain amount of concerning things, health-wise, things like advice to throw away early baby milk. So, so there are risks weaved in there as well in Africa that you've come across.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are positive benefits, but also major risks. And some of those, for example, discarding the colostrum, the first milk zone, because it looks yellow, maybe people think it will cause the baby to be jaundiced, and so discard it. And yet that milk is the highest amount of antibody concentration. It's like an immunisation almost without an injection, so is really critical to give. And similarly, maybe for the woman, you know, the belief that she shouldn't have vegetables, or that she shouldn't eat meat because it has blood and it will make her bleed in some cultures. So in Ghana, for example, I had 2 pregnancies in Ghana. After you deliver, after that 40-day period, whenever you go out for a whole year, you have to wear blue and white like a queen because you have survived that time period. But you are not to go out in that first time period or to take your baby out until you're officially outdoored at a point when it's considered safe.
That's really fascinating. Maisie, let me bring you in because you're a passionate believer, I know that,
Yes,
of
I do.
a traditional period of confinement. Tell me, first of all, why do you believe so passionately in it?
Well, I think the mom should have at least the first 28 days to rest and to given the food prepared to them, fresh ingredients and with Chinese confinement ingredients in them to help them to recuperate faster and to gain back the optimum strength after giving birth, because they have lost a lot of blood during that period of time. And not only that, we created these options in Britain just to help
families.
Well,
that's what you've done. You've built a business around that, not just family members coming to help, but you actually delivering meals for this confinement period.
Correct.
I mean, you brought some of the ingredients in, and the word tradition, when I was reading the details about you, it pops up just about everywhere. You link very much your recipes, what you're doing, to traditional recipes. Tell me a little more about what you've brought in.
Well, I brought in 4 ingredients to show everyone today. The first one is ginger and sesame oil, and this is goji berry, and this is black fungus. Ginger and the sesame oil, the Chinese believe that it will provide the heat back to the body, because they lost a lot of blood and they are in a cold condition. That's what they believe in. And the goji berry, it's very high in antioxidants, and that will actually to improve the skin complexion during that period of time when you're given to the
You talk about warmth
moms.
to the body. There's a lot about that in those very traditional strictures and rules about it. But, you know, when you look at the traditions, I mean, we heard about it a little earlier, no showers, no brushing of teeth, no drinking of water, no eating of raw fruit nor vegetables. I mean, do you accept that many of those traditions may not be that healthy?
Well, I would not go to that extreme, not to tell people not to shower. But that tradition comes from China a long time ago. You have to understand, during that period of time, they do not have a proper heating. So they would not want the moms to catch a cold if you have a shower or a bath in a cold water or in the winter time. So they want to protect the mom during that period of time.
They're still doing it. I mean, there was a case in Shanghai of a woman dying, and she was wrapped in a quilt to keep her warm and refused to put the air conditioning on because those were part of the rules, and died. And that was only a recent case. Kelly, let me bring you back in because you've had 3 children. I'm intrigued. What were the family pressures on you, and did you actually do it?
I did not. I did not do confinement with any of my 3 children. And I definitely felt the backlash from my family. You know, I remember I had 2 miscarriages between my first child and my second child. And when I started having those miscarriages, my mom was definitely like, oh, you should have done confinement. You know, that's why this is happening. I didn't do confinement because I thought the rules weren't really grounded in logic or, you know, Western medicine, which I really believed in. I mean, the idea of not being able to leave my apartment for a month, I think I would have gone.
And how many people around you, the people that you know, were either doing it or not doing it?
Most people were doing it, definitely. I mean, even, you know, lawyers, bankers, and people that you would think were, you know, very Western educated, grew up in the States even, when a lot of them, when they move back to Asia, they definitely do confinement. And I think one of the things that's nice about confinement is this idea that the extended family is so willing to help. that I think is just the most wonderful thing. Because really, in order for confinement to work, you need to have other people around to take your baby to the doctor, to do all these things. So I think that's been a really great thing. And my mom definitely came over and helped me with my baby, and then both my parents with my older kids, and my younger kids as well. So I think that part is really great. But I think that the difference between, you know, not having to go outside and not being allowed to, that's like a pretty big difference.
It is.
So
very briefly, because we're running out of time, but Macy, just in terms of some of the strictures, the controls, in terms of this confinement, I mean, you don't have children.
No.
But if you did, would you do it?
Yes, at some point, if I have children, I would definitely do it. I would do it in a traditional confinement way. I would have a confinement lady in my house preparing me, you know, fresh food for 28 days, you know, taking care of me and my husband and my child.
And your customers, are they mostly Chinese?
But we do have non-Chinese customer, but we would like to expand that in the future. We would like to have more non-Chinese customer, because not only that, they will actually taking care of your husband. So your husband do not have to complain about lacking of sleep, you know, being tired at work, you know, all these things that
Joy, you're smiling, but let me take you back to more.
I would like to see my husband also doing the cooking and doing some helping with the baby.
Just a final thought about sort of health facilities. I mean, if you're staying confined, just briefly, are you potentially also missing out on health facilities? How do you access those?
Well, yeah, that's a huge problem around the world. So we have about 135 million births in the world. Around 80% happen in hospitals, but most of those go home quickly. And if they're then locked up, they can't go for help for themselves or their baby. That is not ideal.
Well, listen, we have run out of time, but thanks all of you for joining us here on the programme and discussing that, well, pretty unusual topic, actually, and enlightening it has been. Thanks very much for your time. We're going to take a short break. I'm back in a bit. Do join me then.